All righty, gang. Welcome to your Saltwater Guide. We got a great podcast for you today. I want to thank you all for joining us. As usual, we cannot do this without all of you. So, once again, thank you for joining us. Thanks for getting ready to watch. This is going to be a great interview. I love this human very, very much. He's been an integral part of my success in Southern California for a very long time. When we delve into it, you will not believe how long this man has been a part of the sport fishing industry in Southern California. Marley's all fired up. He's had about 10 mealworms. He's super excited to hear Phil. And yesterday was a big day for Phil. Yesterday was his birthday. So let's all make sure we welcome Phil. Welcome, Philip. Come on in. Let's do this. Happy birthday, my good friend.
Dave, I love you too, man. It's so nice to be with you. And you're always so kind to me, and you give me way too much credit for your success because you're the one responsible for that, my friend.
Yeah, but you made me relevant. You did. You made me relevant for a very, very long time, and you helped me out, and we'll get deep into that. But gang, we got the great Phil Friedman here with us, and Philip's been around for a very, very long time, and most people don't even know how influential you were to the sport fishing industry and how important you were to make us relevant. You and Pete Gray were probably two of the most important people in the sport fishing industry for such a very long time, and you still are both very relevant today. And what I want to talk about, Phil, is where we're going to get into the 976 thing and all that, but let's go way back. How did you get into this fishing thing?
Well, it has to be, I have to give all the credit to my father, who liked to fish but was chronically seasick. So that made his contribution to me and my brother Paul even more incredible, because the poor guy would go on a 3-day trip and throw up for 3 days while my brother and I fished. And mostly he got us started on the Mondstadt Pier, the old pier in Redondo with a drop line, those yellow pieces of plastic with the green line wrapped around it. And you look down in the water, you see those big piling perch. And as a young man, I thought, man, I got to catch one of those. And so he kind of got that going in both my brother and I. And then, soon after, we were on the half-day boat, Redondo Special, and starting to grow up in Redondo as pinheads. And man, Dave, it would just ignited a love for sport fishing and the outdoors that lives on today.
Yeah, we got to give credit to our fathers. It's incredible. And that drop line thing, that's how I started my career on the San Clemente Pier.
Yeah.
Watching my dad every morning get on the boat and go. And I was too little, but I got a drop line just like yours with the green Dacron line wrapped around it. And then they gave us those, they call them sabikis now, but they called them a 4-fly back then. And they had yellow and red yarn. And you drop that down and you jiggled it with your hands. Right?
Exactly, man. And you catch mackerel, and if you baited them up, sometimes you'd catch those big piling. Dave, as well as I, it didn't matter what you caught as long as you had that magical tug at your line, and you were able to fulfill your dream and catch something. And, whenever I caught something, I took it home whole. I didn't want it clean. I wanted to go home and show mom and dad, look what I conquered today. And so that just played out over and over and over again. And that was a time, Dave, I'm sure you were the same down on the San Clemente Pier, where your parents could drop you off at 6 o'clock in the morning and say, I'll see you sometime later this evening. And, you're down there for 12 hours pretty much alone or with your brother or one of your siblings. And, man, that just, it kind of gave you some confidence about dealing with people. And it was just such a positive time in my life, for sure.
Absolutely. That's what it blows my mind why this current administration is so heck bent on getting rid of fishing. It's just the most important thing on the planet Earth because it brings us all right down to getting deep into the love and the passion and all those things that are so important for a child today. And you and I, we own the disease, this fishing thing. So we're not going anywhere. But these children today, and you're such an influential part of this whole keeping the kids fishing thing and how important it is to give back. And I just don't get that whole thing of why we want to stop fishing, but we'll delve into that a little bit later. But as you started to grow up, then you got to move into going as like a pinhead and a deckhand on the sport boats in Redondo, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, I mean, I was fishing on the Redondo Special. I can almost remember it. And this is 55 years ago, something like that. And Howard Warbase, the deckhand on the Redondo Special, said something to the effect of, "Hey, kid, how'd you like to go fishing for free? You have to scrub the boat, but you get to go for free." And I was like, "What? I mean, I get to stay on the boat and like be part of the crew, and I'm real cool. And when we drop the passengers off on the pier, we go back into Basin 3, and I'm gonna be there with you guys." Man, I thought I died and gone to heaven. And so it worked both great for both of us because Howard would hit the docks and say, "All right, scrub her up, I'm out of here." And we were like king of the boat, people walking by, and we had our deck boots on, and we'd caught some fish. So it was really, really a dream come true, no question about it.
You say deck boots, but let's be honest, we had hip boots. Remember how
Yes,
we
yes.
thought we were so cool when we got our first pair of red ball hip boots? Red
Yeah,
ball.
I mean, remember, sometimes you'd roll them down halfway. Other times you had them all the way up, but they were those cumbersome deck boots, but they were a signal or a sign to everybody that you were a professional, right?
Yeah, you were part of the deal. You were part of the deal. We lost Philip for a minute. Here he's coming back. Might have a little problem. He's right down there on the water. There you are, down in the water in San Pedro. Remember, he's coming from his studio live, so there's always chances for things to happen. You always stay with us because we got Elliot running the board here, and he will
Oh,
bring Phil back quick. So don't leave, folks, if we lose Phil for a minute.
Elliot's the best, by the way.
But something that I always talk about when we had those red ball hip boots on, and that meant you made it. You made it there. But
Yep.
man, those things weighed about 10 or 12 pounds a piece per boot. We, as little deckhands, as little scrub boys, as little grommies, we probably had the tightest little butts on the planet because carrying those boots around all day, it was gnarly. But yeah, when you got your pair of hip boots, you knew you were part of the team. And there was
Yeah,
nothing
I
better.
think I can't remember, Dave, but something tells me I probably left those on when my parents picked me up and walked into a store, if I had to pick something up, just so everybody knew that I was this fisherman and that this was a big part of my life. And it became kind of this badge of, that it was an expression, an outright expression of your love for the sport that you talked about being so important to kids. And it was very important to me. And I truly believe that it kept me out of a lot of trouble that I could have gotten into.
Or it might have got us into more trouble than we.
Yeah, it depends upon what boat you're on, right?
Yeah, it all depends. Yeah. But that's a different story for a different type of meeting. But
Yeah.
Phil and I are both sober, so we share that. I'll give up your anonymity. We both share that common bond, also, gang. And Phil's been a part of my life for a very, very long time. And gang, as far as what I'm talking about, can you imagine today, Phil, a 12 or 13-year-old kid wanting to work for free? First of all, wanting to work for free and then being so passionate about, first of all, labor laws wouldn't allow that today, but boy, did they take advantage of us when we were little kids, huh? Free
They
labor.
did. But at the same time, Dave, and I think you'll agree with me, it was such a positive experience, and it's such a shame. I mean, I get labor laws, I get all that, but this is just like such a positive thing for kids. And when you juxtapose it against the alternative, sitting there looking at TikTok, being exposed to stuff that you shouldn't be exposed to as a 12-year-old,
Right.
man, I mean, the choice is so obvious and so easy to make. But of course, that's when you get politicians and people with PhDs behind their name to tell you that what's logical isn't always right. Being out in the sun and the outdoors and working hard, learning the work ethic and learning about the creatures of the sea. No, that's no good.
Right.
Being
And
on TikTok and being exposed to all these weird things, that's much better for you.
yeah, it's kind of silly to think about that. But like you said, you could, and I grew up, people say, oh, you grew up, my dad owned everything, let's be honest, but it didn't matter. I didn't want the silver spoon. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be on the boat. I wanted to be the deck. There was nothing more important than being able to scrub that boat every afternoon. You felt like you were something. You felt like you were a part of this bitchin' clique. I scrubbed many, many boats, scrubbed many fishing rental rods. I did every piece of grunt work you could possibly do. I learned from the bottom up, which is something that I have to commend my father on because he allowed me to do that and to work on the boat. But there was nothing like, I think the rubber boot thing, I contribute that to the same thing as when we first got our driver's license and we got to drive the car. Remember how we would carry the keys outside of our pocket?
Oh
So people
yeah.
could see
Yeah,
them.
absolutely.
The same thing with the boots. We wore those boots everywhere. You had to pry them off of us when it was time to go to bed at night. And the very first thing we did when our eyes open is put those rubber boots back on.
Oh man, you're so right. And from the minute that you put them on, the dreams would start again. You couldn't wait to get back on the water. You didn't know what you were going to catch, what adventure you were going to see. I remember thinking that a lot of my friends, when we were in our teenage years, were working at Jack in the Box or a fast food place. And I'm not denigrating that at all. But God, Dave, I mean, we got to see sharks, whales, so much every single day. You never knew what was going to be in your future.
No, zillions of fish, and we got thrown into the water on our birthdays, and
Yeah.
and
They
life
don't
would.
give anybody any ideas down here. Watch that.
Yeah, and yesterday was your birthday, so once again, everybody that just tuned in, happy birthday, Phil! Congratulations on another trip around the planet.
Thank you,
And then
Dave.
you worked on the boat, and then all of a sudden you were just a little bit smarter than the rest of us boat guys, and you decided to go to college, right?
I
And then,
did, but I was not a good student. You know, when I was in high school, I wasn't a very good student. It wasn't until a priest by the name of Father Ignatius at Bishop Montgomery High School invited me to go to Costa Rica and volunteer for a year. It was during that year when I worked with so many great kids and worked with families in Costa Rica. And I remember being on the plane after a year. I'd learned Spanish, which I thought was impossible. My Spanish teacher would think this, wait a minute, what happened? You, the guy that was screwing around all the time? But I remember flying out of Costa Rica, out of San Jose, and looking down and saying, you know, no matter what 99% of those people do, they're never going to escape this poverty. They can't get out of it. And I thought, man, what a freaking waste I have been through my life. I need to go back and actually get some good grades. So, I mean, you know, my mom and dad and other people, they couldn't believe what was going on. I actually wanted to study before. I was not academic or anything else, and I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I applied myself, ended up going to Loyola Marymount University. I went back to Mexico and did 2 years of service down there, teaching, working with the poor. Came back, graduated from Loyola, and then off to the races, Dave.
yeah, you became a school teacher, right?
Well, I never got my credentials because
Okay.
when I graduated, I went to law school for about 6 weeks, and I go, I don't want to do this. And then it took me another 6 months to admit to my mom, hey, by the way, I dropped out of law school like 4 months ago. and the funny thing was, she said to me, I don't, you know, you be whatever you want to be. I'm just trying to expose you to things so you can see that. So yeah, I mean, I never got my credential because when I got out, I went back to Bishop Montgomery, and it was a Catholic school, and you didn't need a credential in those days.
Right.
And so they said, hey, start teaching tomorrow. So I taught there, and then the rest of my teaching was overseas, like Mexico, Costa Rica, China for 3 years.
Yeah, we'll go into that in a
Yeah.
little bit. But then in the mid 80s, you had a epiphany, which no one had ever even thought of with this gang. There used to be we used to use phones. There used to be these telephones that were hooked to the wall back in the world, back in the olden days, and you would grab the phone off the wall and you would dial numbers and you would talk to people. It was wild, and then you would hang it back up. It was crazy days. And there was a thing going around where you could get a hold of different. There was no websites, there was nothing, but there was a number floating around that was like a pay number called 976, and there was filthy things to do with the 976. There was also ways to learn different things, but you took it a step further. You saw something that none of us saw, and you grabbed a hold of that, and you started a company called 976 Tuna. Let's talk about that for a few minutes. And it really did do a big deal for the sport fishing industry.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of it was, Dave, I think working in the ticket office at Redondo Sport Fishing, because in those days, I mean, we'd have the barge going and 500 people on it, the morning half day, the afternoon half day, the overnight boat, and then you had to answer all the phones. And there's two guys doing this. And I remember when I first got in there, I go, man, these guys are kind of rude to the people on the phones, you know? And
Very.
after about 2 weeks of that, you're like, hey, you're trying to sell tickets, you're trying to do this, you're trying to do that. So most guys were calling and saying, hey, what happened at Catalina? Hey, what happened with the albacore boat today? What happened on the barge? And so I thought, wait a second. If you could provide that information in a courteous, fun, enthusiastic way, these guys would probably go crazy for it, because they're used to, I'm too busy. I don't care what happened at Catalina Island. And
Right.
so 9716, as you said, most of those lines in those days were Susie Q talking about romantic things with you. And
Right.
I decided, hey, you know what? 9716, man, we can start putting out reports. And so as that started to evolve, I remember like the first day we got 2 calls, and the second day, we jumped up to 6 calls, and then we dipped back down to 3 calls. And then all of a sudden, a guy at the LA Times wrote an article on this incredible resource. That's what he called it. And how this guy is crazy and he's enthusiastic. And man, Dave, we hit like 3,000 calls the next day and pretty much never looked back after that.
Crazy. And gang, just so you understand, there is certain code groups in the sport fishing industry. We know each other, but we don't know everybody. We know a lot of people, but we don't know everybody. And as Philip started to develop this thing, it became a tool that all of us captains used. And then Philip brought it to the next level and allowed us to call in to the 976 and record what we were doing, which at that time, that was our biggest. There was only 2 ways to market yourself back in the day. You put your fish count in the LA Times and the Herald Examiner and whatever other local newspaper was around it, and the Register. We had our fish counts that would go in there, and most fishermen would they'd buy the newspaper for the sports section. They'd never look at anything. They'd go to the last page, look at the fish reports, and see what was going on. And then you would go and you start calling some of your buddies that were in Newport or LA or San Diego and go, shit, you guys caught it. Didn't mean to say that word, but you guys caught a bunch of barracuda. Where were you guys fishing the barracuda? Was it in the canyon? Then all of a sudden, Philip was like latched onto that, started grabbing the information, and we could call Philip's line 976, and we could get the information, and you could hear the captain, and then you knew who it was, and you would call him, and your your phone number became such a spectacular tool to use in the industry, gang. And when did you launch that?
That was 1985. So I want to say it was in the fall of 85. And I launched it based on the fact that albacore was the life's blood of San Diego, and the enthusiasm around longfin was so incredible. I launched it in 85, and I don't think we saw an albacore for the next several years. So I'm perfect on my albacore predictions. And when I jumped into the business, I managed to shut them down. But Dave, you and we worked very closely on 9716. And you were, there's nobody like you with your enthusiasm. You're funny. I mean, that was fun working with guys like you. There's no doubt about it.
I understood the value of it. I understood it from the very beginning because we didn't have a way to market. You could read my fish report. You could read my fish report every day in the newspaper, but you didn't hear my enthusiasm. You didn't hear how fired up about catching 1,000 sand bass yesterday and catching 500 barracuda. But then all of a sudden, I could talk to everybody on board. And gang, you don't understand. In the late 80s, early 90s, it was my biggest tool. I used that thing like you can't even comprehend. And it allowed me to skyrocket my sport fishing deal out of Dana Wharf Sport Fishing, working for my dad. But everybody knew my voice, knew who I was, and came. And I remember the funny thing was, a lot of the Pedro guys and they didn't understand it. They didn't understand. They listened, but they didn't get it. Now everybody does it. Everybody does it. But I was crucified back in the day for doing what I was doing. But I understood that it was a phenomenal marketing tool for the industry because we didn't have anywhere to show. We didn't have anywhere. And you opened that up for us. You and then Pete with his Let's Talk Hookup show that gave us a voice, which we never had before.
That is so true. And Pete, I mean, the difference between Pete and I is he has just been steady for 30 years. I've come and I've gone, you know, I've flipped off and went to China and everything else. But you got to hand it to Pete Gray. He has just been steady for decades, just trucking along and doing such a great job. And he continues to do that to today.
Now, that is so true because he's like a rock. Pete is like a rock. You can guarantee on Saturday and Sunday mornings you're going to hear him.
Yep.
But we're going to get into what you're doing now in a little bit. But let's stay on this 976 thing because there is no internet still. There is no internet for guys like you and me. There's no internet. I know you can't comprehend that, most of you, but there was no internet. I mean, 1985, in the beginning of 85, there was no word called Microsoft. That was invented in the end of 1985. That's when that was never a word. We had no access to the World Wide Web. And when we did, it was in the 90s. But gang, going on 976 and listening, how did that work? Because I know you got paid by the calls, but was it about keeping me on the phone longer, or was it about
and just one other observation, like, you know, the general public, the fishing public, they look at guys like you like you're God. So when they heard those reports, and especially if you could catch them in the middle of a hot bite, man, you know, and some guys knew how to play that a little better than others. And there's nothing wrong with that, man. You're in the middle of a bite. Some guys are like, we got 100 albacore. Other guys are like, man, they're freaking on the corner and we're blah, blah, blah. And they know how to do it. But so here's how it worked. And I think we started at 95 cents a call. We ended up at $2 a call. We just kept trying to bump it up. And so there were no accounts receivable. So you didn't have to chase anybody down. If the guy didn't pay his phone bill, they shut his phone off. And it was two carriers. It was Pac Bell and GTE. So every month you get a check from both those guys. And it was not about how long you stayed on. The minute you were on, you got charged $1 or you got charged $2. The phone company took 50 cents and we got $1.50 per call. So that's what it was all about. And then, you know, we started doing special updates. Remember, we were doing in the morning, then we'd start doing the 12 noon. Or, you know, if I talked to Eddie McEwen down below and I talked to him and I said, Eddie, hey, can we talk at 5? Is that possible? And he'd say, yeah, no problem. And then I could schedule, hey, we're going to have Eddie McEwen on, and I'd give it an hour, so make sure that I had it. And then people were dying because they wanted to know, like you said, Dave, you had to wait till the next morning to find out what was biting. And sometimes that's too late in this game. If you could get it the night before, you could be to San Diego and on a boat and catch an albie or yellowfin or big eye or whatever. And man, it just turned into this juggernaut where people had to get the info.
Oh, you got me many times because you would do the, in the morning, you'd give, hey, you know, the albacore biting, we got Eddie McEwen calling in around 11 o'clock. And so you would be like, dang it, I didn't get the, hang up the phone. Then you'd call back at 11:30 and you'd go, hey, we still haven't heard the exact update. I know Eddie's got like 50, 60 fish on the boat, but man, if you guys call back around 4, I promise you all have it. Call right back at 4.
Absolutely. I mean, it was like just throwing chum, man. Every once in a while you hit them with a scoop, but most of the time just ones and twos like that. And it was, and we weren't, you know, I mean, we were providing good info, but there was that into the marketing of it also. You know, another thing that dawns on me that's funny, there's a guy named Charles Brown, and he works a lot of the boats, galley cook and deckhand. And his story is one that I know a lot of guys have. Moms, wives were furious that their husbands were calling these girly hotlines. And so they would have to dial the number and go, here, listen to what this is. because in those days, that's mostly what those were. But this one was just legit fishing information.
Well, I made that mistake many times because it was one letter and it was either 976 tuna or 976 Tina. And
Yes.
oh my God, I can't even tell you how many dollars I gave Tina because I'm so fired up. Your hands are covered in scales. And I remember when we first got our first cell phones and they were like a big like suitcase.
Yes.
Had them on the boat, and man, you could easily hit the I instead of the U. It was simple. You get
Yes.
the I
Yes.
instead of the U, and you bam, and then you're doing it on a cell phone back then, and it was like $3 for a second, and you would make that stupid call, and you'd be like so pissed, and then you'd pick it up.
I'm sure it went the other way too, where you had some guy trying to call 976 Tina, and he's like, "What's this, the Bonita bite at Rocky Point? What, I don't care about that."
Right? Oh yeah, all day, every day. But
Yeah.
and then as this thing keep going along, and then you and I were doing seminars for 976, and we were doing all kinds of stuff. You were bringing in all these special guests and stuff. And then I remember in the beginning of, oh my God, in the early 2000s, I had a 46-foot Bertram up in LA, Long Beach Harbor, Liquid Coast Highway. And we just got annihilated with the price of fuel. I think it was 2004, 2005. We got annihilated with the price of fuel. It was up like 10, 12 cents a day. It was just incredible. And I told you, and I know all of you've done this way longer than I have. I already know that, so you don't need to make that comment. But I said, Phil, I got an idea. I'm going to do open party hoop net trips. And you're like, what? And no one had ever done it before. Even though you all say you have, you didn't. If you did, you didn't run any trips because there was nobody doing it on the planet.
Yes.
If you were doing it, congratulations. I'm sure you made $1 million. But I went to Phil with this idea and I said, we're going to do open party hoop net trips. I'm going to charge $100 a person, and I'm going to give them all the pizza they can eat and all the beer they can drink for 5 hours inside a Long Beach Harbor. Now, I didn't know poop all about catching lobsters. I could kind of catch some fish once in a while if I got lucky and they were really hungry. But as far as lobster fishing, I didn't know anything about it, except I knew I needed to make the boat payment. I knew I needed to make the dock payment. I knew I needed to do all that. I didn't know what to do. And so we started with you, and I would give 3 times a day, we'd give updates about this lobster trip. We haven't even run one yet, but I was calling in. Hey, we're going to do this. And then all of a sudden, we're running all these trips because of you, because you were the only outlet. There wasn't anything else. There was no internet. And all of it now, if you look, it'd be hard to find a boat that isn't hoop netting in the wintertime.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, you and I started it, no matter what they all want to say. You can go back to history and look. We started that whole thing. And then we got blessed when my wife caught that giant lobster out with somebody else and gave it to the aquarium of Long Beach. And then all of a sudden, all holy heck broke loose. And we didn't have any nights available. But I'll just give guys a little secret about that hoop netting thing that I was doing in Long Beach Harbor. I wasn't fishing in Long Beach Harbor because it was the greatest place to fish. I was fishing there because I didn't have any money. I didn't have any fuel. I couldn't go anywhere else. We'd put the boat, one engine in. I couldn't run both engines, didn't have enough fuel. We'd put one engine in gear and put out there to Oil Island Chaffee and throw 10 hoop nets out there. And then hopefully we caught something, or we didn't. We didn't know what the heck we were doing, to be perfectly honest. That whole thing's changed by doing it every day. But back in the beginning, we didn't know. But I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for 976, none of that would have happened for me.
Well, you were the one who came up with the idea, man. And I was always I thought I was pretty good at listening to an idea and discerning whether it was a good idea. And it just struck me as, this not only could work, it could turn into something really big. And the two of us, man, because you're a great promoter, man. Your enthusiasm is infectious. And so you would connote that to the people. And like you said, that giant lobster and, the price of lobster. I mean, when you look at that sells the trip. and then you were smart enough to all the beer you want, all the peach you want, doesn't cost you that much, and people gravitated toward it. And so at first you said it was me, and then the second time you said it was you and I, and that's the way it is. It was a team effort there, Dave.
Absolutely.
And yeah, man, we actually started that whole thing.
Yes, we did. And all these guys that are doing it now and getting to make a living in the wintertime, they got to look back to 976 and you and me, and we're the reason why you all get to go hoop netting. And everybody's into it now. It's a big deal. There's whole websites devoted just to hoop netting. Promar's made a fortune selling hoop nets and all the supplies. And thank you, Phil, for allowing me to do that, because it allowed me to feed my family all winter long, which was
Dave, it was great. And you know how history kind of repeats itself? Your sister invited me to hoop net on a trip out of Dana Wharf sport fishing here a month or so ago. I had a freaking ball. It was so much fun. And the people that were on board with us, it was fun. Chuck Zimmer was there. He's from the Redondo Beach Rod and Gun Club. He's a great guy. He brought his sister and his son, Charlie. And man, it was a blast. And I got to eat lobster the next night. So it was fantastic.
Perfect. Yeah, I talk my sister. We talk so much all the time. And I was just telling her, you're setting on a gold mine down there. You don't have to go anywhere. You got the break wall 3 minutes from the dock.
Yeah.
And you got 9 boats tied up there. You just take one of those 9 boats and make it the lobster boat. And you're set all winter long. Plenty of people would want to go out of Dana Point. It's just nice to go out on a boat at night and experience it. And 90% of the time you're fishing in a harbor, so it's not rough. People that get seasick aren't going to get seasick. Your dad probably could have even done it.
Yeah, maybe. He probably could have done that. I don't know. You know, he got on the pier and he started feeling a little queasy, actually.
The really cool thing about giving them all they could drink, they didn't understand we were going to keep them soaking wet and it's freezing cold. And I'm a good drinker and so are you. But when you're freezing cold, it's hard to drink.
Yeah, it is. It's easy when, it's 90 degrees out, man, and you're sweating and everything else. But you're right, man. It gets cold and windy and like that. You better have an entertainer running the boat and a guy that every once in a while catches some lobster, and you got it, man. It's an instant slam dunk.
Yeah, you want to have as much information as you can to share with people. What spinning reel 600 do you recommend? I'm from Puerto Rico. Okay, I would always look into the Okuma spinning reels. They have a plethora of them. You could go on their website, okuma.com, and look at them. Phil would tell you to go look at the Daiwa spinning reels, just because that's who we both are sponsored by. He's Daiwa, I'm Okuma. Is one better than the other? That's your own opinion. You need to go look at everything. Look at everybody's spinning reels and then make your own choice, because spinning reels aren't like, remember when we were kids? If you showed up with a spinning reel, you're like, get a booger and eat it, because you're nowadays.
Now you got 40 pounds of drag on some of these spinning reels.
And a lot of them are priced where you got to take a second out on your house to buy a spinning reel.
Yeah, there's some that are $1,000 or more, man. That's a little pricey.
Yeah, but they're not our grandfather's spin. Well, now we're grandfathers, but they're not our spinning reels we grew up fishing with. It's a different animal today, and there's nothing wrong with it.
There is that stigma still, though, Dave. You notice? I mean, it's especially here on the West Coast. You go to Florida, and there's no stigma at all. But here on the West Coast, unfortunately, we need to fix that. I should catch something with a spinning reel this summer. I think I might do that. Because like you said, Dave, you can take basically a brand new angler and teach them how to fish in 5 or 10 minutes with a spinning reel, and they're in the game.
Yeah, and you're not going to spend all day untangling their line.
Yeah, exactly.
The game changer on that Liquid Coast Highway that I ran forever, we had a plethora of spinning rods and reels just because we wanted everybody to participate in the act of catching.
Yep.
It made it so fun.
You know how long it's been since I've heard Liquid Coast Highway, and I used to say it over and over and over again. It's hard to believe that's over 20 years ago, right?
Oh my gosh, isn't that amazing? I didn't have gray hair back then. Hey, Phil, which one of your boys is better fisherman, Pat or Phil?
Good question. I'm going to say
they're both watching.
Man, I probably shouldn't say, should I? They're both really, excellent. Philip was the deckhand. He liked working the deck. Patrick liked fishing. That was like my brother and I. Paul liked to fish. I liked to deck. Paul was a much better fisherman than I was, I thought, because I was, I wanted to hone my skills at gaffing fish, filleting fish, and all that. But we're both good. I would say it's pretty much a tie. I'm not going to get into anything with those two. They're both really good fishermen, and they do their homework, and they're totally into it, man. I mean, when they go, they're really into it. Philip, I would say, is a little more serious. When we go, Patrick and I sometimes will joke around and screw around. He's fishing hard. And he releases every bass he catches, every calico bass. Patrick and I, man, we want some fish tacos every once in a while. So we keep a couple from time to time. Not that many, but every once in a while. But right. Philip, my son Philip, everything goes bad.
So now let's just go into the now for a minute. We could stay in the past forever, but you have a really cool thing going on right now with your Patreon channel. And let's talk about that for a minute, because gang, if you listen to Phil's voice, it's like soothing. They used to call him the voice. That was his nickname. Now you have this great channel on Patreon. Talk about that for a minute. And then I want to talk about some other stuff, but let's talk about that. Grab that with your phone, hit the QR code, gang. You want to follow Phil. It is incredible the amount of information you give. Go ahead.
Dave, so Friedman Adventures is a YouTube channel. We're on Spotify. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. So I was teaching.
There you go. There's his page. Grab that QR code there. Phil will be back in just here he comes. He's coming back.
Yeah, I'm back.
All right.
So I was teaching in China for 3 years, and I really fell in love with teaching in China. Now, don't get me wrong. Chinese government, very bad. Chinese people, very good. But I was fulfilled, and I was working like 24 hours a day. I was off teaching in the mornings in an international school. In the afternoons, I was going out to smaller schools. In the evenings, I was teaching adults in malls. So I was having a good time. But COVID screwed it all up. So I was looking around during COVID, and I said, well, I'm not going to sit in my house for the next whatever this COVID is going to take. In fact, I'm not even, when they tell you you're not going outdoors, I'm going outdoors. I may not go out and start hugging and kissing everybody, but I'm going for a walk every day. It just was like, what? Don't get any exercise, don't get any sunshine, and lock yourself up and eat a 5-gallon pail of ice cream every day. So I go, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna start a podcast. And anyway, I was down here at 22nd Street Landing talking to Mike Morrison, the manager. And Mike took me to the back room where I'm right now, and he goes, how would you like this to be your studio? And I said, what? Really? And he goes, yeah, I think this can work good for us and work good for you. So we started. And again, I'm getting back into the game now, Dave. So I've got to reestablish everything that had gone away. I was reestablishing. And what put us on the map, no question about it, Desiree Rodriguez and her story. Mark Paisano was sitting in front of me. I was interviewing him. He owns the Independence. He owns all kinds, Point Loma, sport fishing. And I said, you ever rescue anybody? And he said, numerous. I can remember, numerous. Pongueros in Mexico. We rescued these guys, blah, blah, blah. But I'll never forget this 9-year-old girl that we rescued coming back from Catalina Island. And he told the story about how her whole family died and that they found her after she survived 24 hours in the water. And I looked at him and I said, wow, well, so what's up with her now? And he said, I don't know. It's been bothered my partner, Paul Strasser, and I for many, many years. So put that podcast out there, and I get a phone call from a guy who says, I know that girl, Pablo Pena. I fished with Pablo one time 10 years ago, and we hit it off. He's a funny guy. And he put me in touch with Desiree. And then you know the story from there. It was incredible. It was a moment that I'll never forget. It got us on the front page of the New York Post, the LA Times. We were in People magazine, blah, blah, blah. This dopey fishing podcast, all of a sudden just got this shot in the arm. I have to give that credit to my higher power, to God, right? I mean, this just all came together And I didn't have that much to do with it. I felt like I was lucky. I felt like fate played into it. And so we brought Desiree in, Mark and Paul. I convinced those two schmucks that she was a translator and that she was going to listen to their story and go sell this to Spanish language media. And then we're going to get more publicity, boys. So tell her the story. So they're telling her the story. She's doing a great job. She's very stoic, not letting anything show. And then at one moment, I looked at them and I said, "You guys are heroes. You know that?" And they start shaking their head. No, no. And I go, "This is not a translator." And Mark Paisano, so remember, slammed his hand down on the desk. Paul Strasser put his head down. And Desiree tried to choke out. I said, "Who are you?" And I'm getting emotional. She tried to choke it out, and she finally got out, "I'm Desiree." And Dave, I was prepared for that moment, and my plan was, when she says that, my job as the host is to shut up and get out of the way and let it happen, not to try to hog up any of the oxygen in the room. So that's what I did, and my God, what a moment. And still today, I get people, most emotional moment I've ever seen. And, and it brought Mark and Paul together, and it was just.
We're gonna play a little piece of it, I think, here.
Oh, okay.
This is not a translator. I'm going to let her introduce herself to you.
I'm Desiree.
Oh my God. Holy shit.
Yeah, this is I'm so happy.
Oh my God. Phil, how the hell did you do this?
So happy.
Man, I'll tell you, right?
Oh, yeah. I called Paisano and Strausser afterwards, and I'm like, dude, I haven't cried this hard since my dad passed away.
Is that right?
Blown away. That was one of the most emotional. You guys, I'm telling you, everybody that's watching this show right now, you need to go watch that podcast. You need to go. It's not hard to find. Philip, tell them where to get it.
So if you go to Friedman Adventures on YouTube, you'll go there, and it's pinned to the top because it's by far the most emotional moment Elliot is showing you right now. And it's only a half hour, and 12 minutes in, you'll be transformed. I mean, I don't know anybody. I was just down in Puerto Nuevo. A guy opened a new hotel down there, and he wanted me to come down and see it and promote it. And I said, "Hey, you should watch." He goes in, and then a half hour later, he's at my room with tears flowing down. And I go, "Oh, it hit you that hard?" And he goes, "Who wouldn't it hit? You're not human if that doesn't hit you."
Right. If you don't understand how all this is in the story, and we're not going to tell the story because I want these people to watch it. But when you hear the story of what Mark and Paul did, or what this poor little girl went through, you are going to be blown away. That fisherman, just like you said, we're just fishermen, got involved in this and did this. It's a damn miracle. It's an absolute miracle. And you guys, if you've never heard of a miracle or ever witnessed one, you're going to hear it, the most unbelievable miracle you've ever heard in your life. And there's nothing else but a miracle involved. It is. Right, Phil?
Oh, Dave, I was thinking to myself, man, I had a really good thing going in China, and everything was going so well. And I opened my own school in addition to schools. And then COVID hits, and I'm, at home, and then this happens. And I said, okay, now I know why you brought me home. I get it. Because in all my 976 tuna days and my teaching days and working in Costa Rica and living with a tribe of Indians in the hills of Guerrero in Mexico, this, I think, is my finest moment. And it doesn't have really that much to do with me. I just got to be a part of it. I was lucky enough to have asked that question to Mark, heard that answer. Pablo Pena brings Desiree to it. She's a lovely person. And I mean, all the stars collided for me. So it wasn't me. It was, I'll give all the credit to God on this one.
Absolutely. That's one more time to show you and me that there is a power out there greater than ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. We both had to recognize that, right?
Oh my gosh. I'm a mess right now because of that, because I know the story and it's just amazing. And I know Mark and Paul, and I Oh, it's just an amazing, amazing story, gang, and you guys have to go check it out. So there's something else going on with Philip that is absolutely something I tune into. I know I'm a geek, but I tune into this every morning, and I have my coffee with Phil
Hey, I love it.
every morning, Dave. And Kelly will tell you, I turn it on YouTube on my big screen in my bedroom, and I watch you doing the morning briefing, which is pretty cool because, yes, stuff slips by me. I know it's hard to believe, but people actually, stuff slips by me, and I want to hear what Phil knows. And then if I still don't know what the heck you're talking about, I'll call you. But this is the morning briefing. Let's go over that real quick.
Yeah, that's actually become a thing now, where a lot of people, like you said, are having their morning coffee. Let's see, here it is right here. My morning coffee cup is right there. And it's become kind of a thing, Dave. So, most of the time you got to wait till the afternoon or evening to get fishing info. Fishermen want to talk about fishing 24/7. And there's a lot of morning news shows. So I thought, hey, wait, why isn't there a morning fishing news show? And once again, I've seen this evolve now to the point where we've had as many as 20,000 people watch that. So it's pretty incredible. And the guy like you watching it, that's a feather in my cap, man. Seriously, that makes me feel really good. So we cover fishing from down below the Mexican border up to the Channel Islands. And I may start breaking that up a little bit just so that there's people that are more interested in Baja, they can just get that. But for right now, we cover what's fighting, what size the fish are, what kind of lures you want to use. We can also put in a video of a captain or something like that, giving advice to people. So it's up to date. And if something breaks during the day, we come back and we do the afternoon update. But now everybody's like, when I am late with the morning update, my God, I get 500, hey, are you okay? Or what's with the morning update? And so even like when I went to Baja here recently, I actually did the morning briefing in the line driving up to get back into the United States. So I was there and I made sure I didn't think that the U.S. customs agent would be too fond of me doing the morning briefing when I got up there and he's asking me questions. So I got off before I got up there, but it's actually grown into a thing, Dave. And once again, it was just something I threw out there and I go, let's just see what happens. Is this going to work? Is it going to resonate with people? And it clearly has.
Oh, absolutely. I watch it. Like I tell you, I pretty much watch it every day. And then you get me a lot though with your other videos that you have. And you're like wide open bluefin. I'm like, wait a minute. What are you talking about? Then I click on it and 2014. And I'm like,
yeah, you're right. So we've been doing those retro videos. When I was doing 97610, Bob Alvarez and I did the Saltwater Action Series videos. And so doing shorts helps you to get more subscribers. And so, during the winter, this winter, I was like, man, there's, we're running out of stuff current stuff because there's nothing going on. And I go, wait a minute, I got a whole freaking history of sport fishing if I just start.
Yeah, he does. You guys got to check out scan that QR code. You got to check out. There he is. He's back. He's just messing with us. Okay. You were all fired up and you were talking about I got a really cool story real quick because I know we're running out of time. My wife and I, we love to go fly fishing up in the Sierras. We are into it. We go. That's Kelly's zen. We were walking last night. She goes, when are we going back to Lee Binding? I go, I know, baby. We got so many places to go. Please. Our life is blessed. But she loves going to Lee Binding. So we were driving by back and forth over and over again, and I was seeing Manzanar, the camp there at Manzanar, the Japanese camp there at Manzanar. And finally, I was explaining to her what had happened, and she kind of knew from history. And then we go into there, and this is a God moment again. We are inside the camp at Manzanar at the museum, wandering around. We end up sitting down to watch the movie or the little sizzle clip that they have playing and I sit down and Kelly sits down and it starts to play. And I'm like, that's Phil Friedman talking to me. That is the voice. Go ahead. Real quick, go over that. I know we're running out of time. We got Elliot for a few more minutes, but talk about that for a minute. This is big time history lesson here, folks.
Hey, first of all, I can't believe we're running out. Yeah, I can believe, because you and I can go on for 4 hours. And by the way, Dave Hansen's done 2 of our best podcasts on Friedman Adventures. I highly recommend you check that out. But Corey came to me and said, hey, you're the voice. We want you to voice over the Manzanar Fishing Club. And of course, it was about the internment of the Japanese during World War II, one of our darkest chapters of our history, where we literally ripped people out of their homes and took their businesses and put them in these internment camps. And I've known survivors of those camps and kids that were born in the camps. One guy just recently passed away, James Taney. He used to work at Pierpoint Landing. But so I felt honored, Dave, really, really, really honored to be able to voice over, I think, the third act of that. And yeah, it's just another one of those moments where I fell into the right thing. Corey asked me to do it, and I said, yeah, hey, you don't have to ask twice. I'm honored to do it. I'm a little worried about my pronunciation of Japanese names, and he had a producer who helped me through that, and it's almost like pronouncing Spanish, so I was kind of okay, and it turned out really, it's another really memorable moment for me.
Oh, you did a wonderful job. And I mean, then Kelly and I came home and then we watched the whole thing on YouTube. You have so much content out there. And I really, really encourage everybody that's watching us to go subscribe to Phil's channel. You guys everybody that watches this, and I don't care. There's a lot of people in Florida and a lot of people. It's kind of cool in the morning to start your day off listening to Philip talk about the morning briefing, get you kind of flowing on the whole fishing vibe, and then your Patreon channel and everything else you got going on. Gang, you got to go look at Philip's channel on YouTube, and we're going to talk more about that. You have some really cool videos on there too. We got some parts and pieces of them to show once in a while on our show. But Phil, just talk a little bit more about this, because there's so much cool information on there, and you have all kinds of great interviews with a bunch of great captains. You really get people to open up because you're so fun to talk to.
Thank you, Dave. That means a lot to me, man, coming from you. It really, really, really does. I can't make that any more clear to you. But yeah, we're doing everything. Part of it is, Dave, this is going to sound a little morbid maybe, but guys that are my age and older, I look at them and I go, you may not, I'm to myself, may not have all that much longer. This is a piece of sport fishing history that is going to go away. It's going to be gone. And so I try to grab some of those guys because they're instrumental in this business, and the things that they went through to get us to this point. People should know that. Should learn about that. So I grabbed those guys. I also want to grab the young kids who are stars in this business now, work so hard, have a tremendous work ethic. And then, of course, we'll get into tackle and the right tackle so that anglers can go out with the right stuff when they go fishing. And we videotape fishing trips, and I go to Baja quite a bit. In fact, today, I'm doing this with you, so I didn't go over to the Gallagher staging warehouse, but I had a couple guys over there, and we shipped a huge truck full of clothing, medical supplies, sporting equipment, all went across the border, and it's going to go to Cedros Island. So really happy to be able to do that. So yeah, we've got all kinds of stuff. We've got charters, and I got dear friendships with people like Dave Hansen that mean so much to me. And I'll tell you, Dave, I get so many comments all the time from people who say, man, that Dave Hansen is an entertainer. And yeah, anytime I can have you on the show, I know my numbers are going to go through the roof because you're fantastic. So yeah, I mean, Baja, we have 2 live shows. I've added, speaking of a guy with a great deal of wisdom, Danny Cadota. We've added Danny. I gave him his own show. He's on live Thursday nights. People love him. He's such a nice guy. He's so knowledgeable. I know you know him very, very well. And adding Danny to the show, perfect. Just fantastic.
He's a plethora of knowledge, and him and I were joking yesterday when you and I were talking about this, and then you put Danny on there. there's so many stories, and I forgot all about Storm and Norman when we got caught in that hurricane. Cadota was right behind us. I was working for Mike Thompson on the Patricia back then. Just absolutely, Danny Cadota. You're not going to find anybody with more history, and he's got that cool show that you produce for him, and the Danny Cadota Show, which is a way for us. Let's face it, Phil, we're old timers now, man. We are the
I
old
know.
timers.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
Seems like just yesterday we were stoked to put on those hip boots, and now you're calling us the old timers.
Oh my God, that is so true, Dave. It just goes by so fast, and luckily you and I are still okay. I mean, we're in pretty good shape. So I don't know about you. I feel like I have as much energy now as I've ever had, and I'm enjoying the business again. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I honestly, this is how demented I am. This is how depraved I am. I go to bed at night thinking about the morning briefing and how I can't wait to do it again and make it not only informative, Dave, but, kind of lift people up, give them a sense of optimism, give them a sense of positivity. It's not my job to go on there and mope or, talk about how it's my job to lift people up, give them that sense of positivity, and talk about the sport that you and I love so much.
Absolutely, you do. You get me up in the morning every morning. I know I'm a weirdo, but I listen to Phil every morning, gang. Why? Because you got that energy, and you're sharing positive, and like I do on my show every day at 12 o'clock. And Kelly and I, our whole being revolves around the 12 o'clock live podcast every day. We can't start our day until it's over. We start our day with Phil, then we do our podcast, then we go do our life. But I always share super positive. I want to make sure that I keep that going, just like you've done for so long. We're just showing all these nice things you do for the people of Mexico. I know there's a lot of people watching right now that would love to help you with this stuff. So just go over that one more time, what you're doing. You're always constantly gathering up stuff to take to the people down there. That's a cool thing you do. You don't need to do that. You do it because you love.
Yeah, I think, Dave, that comes from my parents and that time I spent in Mexico and Costa Rica and having gone back for so many years. So, yeah, we've invited people to bring stuff here to the landing. I put out the word, and it's really the kindness and generosity of all of our fans out there. And we literally had just pallets and pallets and pallets of stuff this year that we're sending across. Getting it, I don't mind that. But now we're going to have to pay for it to go across. So we have a GoFundMe page. I don't even know what the cost is quite yet. I know when we sent this stuff to Cabo last year, it was $1,500. But we have at least 5 times as much. It's only going to Ensenada, and then Diego Nunez, who's the deckhand on the Royal Star, is going to get it from there to Cedros. He was born on Cedros Island. So we have a GoFundMe. Maybe hang on for one more day. Enrique picked the stuff up today. He's the trucking company guy. He's going to tell me how much, and then we can go from there. But if we had money left over, we'd just go down and do some more fun stuff at the orphanages or whatever. And Dave, I mean, honestly, I really love doing this. Who doesn't like being Santa Claus? You get your back patted all the time. People love you. I mean, it's pretty easy to do. And I learned a long time ago living down there, not only in Mexico, but Costa Rica, and traveling down there. You live there. I mean, there's not much of a safety net down there. So it's super important that we help our brothers and sisters on the other side of the border, especially because, man, we have had so many great fishing opportunities in the country of Mexico. It's great to give back. And I know anybody who's traveled or lived in Mexico like you has had a Mexican citizen come to their aid at some point in time. Flat tire, stuck on a beach, something like that. Me, more times than not, because I have trouble putting gas in the car. So any kind of mechanical thing, I'm screwed. And so, yeah, they're lovely people, and it's just nice to work with everybody and give back.
Oh, absolutely. And everyone, like when you see the faces of those children, that's it. You're hooked. You're going back the next time. You can't wait to come back. When you see their face.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
you go. I'm sorry.
Because you gave them a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Something we all take. Oh, we got plenty of shoes. These children don't have any shoes, gang. You can't comprehend that. And I know there's plenty of people in the United States of America that don't have shoes either, and we love to give back to them too. But Phil, what you're doing is super special. Your show, your morning briefing, your YouTube channel, everything you do is super special. I love you so much. I thank you for coming on my show today. I really cannot thank you enough.
You're making me tear up, man. I love you too. There's been many times when you stood up for me when it wasn't popular. And I'll tell you, I love you, Dave. You're the best. I send you all my very best, you and your wife, and continued success, man. You have elevated your game to the point where, man, I'm trying to emulate you. You've done such a great job, and I'm just so happy that we're in this together.
Oh, me too, buddy. And it's all because of all these people that are watching us. It's none of this is possible without all of our fans and all of our members of both of our Patreon and our websites and everything. And gang, I always want to make sure that you understand I appreciate every single one of you, because none of this is possible without you. I know you guys enjoy watching me. I love entertaining. I love being able to teach you about what I learned over all the years and all the cool stuff that I stole from all the great captains. But Phil was there since the beginning. And don't forget about my good buddy, Phil. Please go over there, subscribe to his YouTube channel, subscribe to his Patreon channel. One more time, we'll flash that QR code up on the board, and we're going to wrap this up because my good buddy Elliot that runs our show has to get going. He's got 1 million people like you and me that he has to help.
Well, I want to say thank you to Elliot too, because he actually talked me through this, and I can mess up anything. So he's a real pro and a real pleasure to work with. Dave, love you, man. You're the best.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And I'll see you Monday. Be kind to each other. Turn off the news. They're all lying. Watch me and Phil. We will never lie to you.
100%. Love you, Dave.
All right, buddy. Thanks. See you guys, everybody.